Note: due to security concerns, privacy of information, and classified past experiences, we are recording these files out of order. All files on hybrid assets are kept hidden and chronologically sorted away from public eyes. Thank you for understanding. Code name: Lilith. Height: 3.3 meters. Length: 5 meters. Weight: 300 kilograms.
Already having megatheropod hybrids in our arsenal catalog for upcoming operations, our next objective was to create a raptorial dinosaur that would specialize in taking out armed crews, militia, extremist groups, terrorists, and even mid-sized hybrids, to name but a few. With tensions rising between countries, the ever-escalating hybrid wars, and the tactics used by a number of unscrupulous nations we will not name, we had to think carefully about how we should carry out our operations, and crafting our genetic creations from this onwards. Unfortunately, this means we'll have to deal with said parties wanting to use methods other than sending their own genetically empowered creatures to fight ours. As a result, this means we need a creature that can not only fight other beasts, but also humans, attack in coordinated packs and fight solo when needed, reproduce rapidly to swarm areas of concern if needed, obey commands from training teams, learn and teach other members of its pack and trainers to disseminate information, make smart and on-the-spot decisions, and lastly, deceive its targets to lure in for a decisive, silent ambush. We decided to call the first of these assassins of ours Lilith, and will be put under the tutelage and care of Agent Libra. Written July 2025. As of June 23, 2026, however, while doing one of our routine training operations for Lilith and her packmates, for solo and pack coordination exercises, we heard from one of our fellow genetics and intelligence agencies that a lab somewhere in a mountainous region has been shut down and overrun by a new hybrid named Teratoscorpions ragina, an improved and more congruent version of the failed InGen experiment Scorpius Rex. The components in hybrid are as follows: Australovenator, Lithonax, Majungasaurus, Tiger Shark, Komodo Dragon, Vampire Bat, the Fertilance, Giant Chinese Salamander, North American Porcupine, Golden Poison Dart Frog, Arabian Camel, Ankylosaurus, Stygimoloch, Tenontosaurus, Whiptail Lizard, to name but a few. Upon reading that, we saw that the threat level had escalated more than just a single creature. Thanks to the Whiptail Lizard, its reproduction capabilities have already kicked in, and now a whole bunch of these creatures are raiding the facility. Thus, we've decided to lend our hand to That-one-paracerathirum in the hopes that this will contain the threat. And since we already had a dromaeosaur hybrid, we decided to bring her into the mix as well. We also made sure to take a look at the schematics and map of the abandoned facility, since this is where Lilith will be operating from and doing her combat capabilities. This is a very important thing for us to know. Luckily, as we'll see in a bit, the components, as will be shown on screen and explained, help to facilitate this quite well. With that said, let's get on with the components. The contributors for her genome go as follows. Components: Achillobator, Troodon, Deinonychus, Sinornithosaurus, Golden Eagle, Whiptail Lizard, Northern Short-tailed Shrew, Raven, Arapaima, Lyrebird, Great Horned Owl, Vampire Bat, Possum, and Snow Leopard. Component explanation and stats. 1. Achillobator. For the base, Lilith needed to be large enough to take on armed opponents and battle beasts alike. We initially thought of using Utahraptor as her base, but discarded it when we looked at some of our later projects which would put said genome to better use. However, we found an effective alternative that will suit our needs quite well in its place. The Achillobator, a large dromaeosaur that lived during the late Cretaceous in what's now Mongolia, that seemed the largest of its respective region, was big enough to tower above a human and measured over 6 meters long, which makes it good for average-sized combatants in fighting scenarios. It had arms with fingers tipped in claws, the recognizable sickle-shaped toe claw, a long balancing tail, and a sturdy yet lithe body. An active carnivore, it also had jaws that were fairly robust and suggested, based on fossil studies, that it had a respectable bite force and powerful hind limbs for leaping and strength-based feats. Its arms were formidably built and were perfect for holding on to prey if needed. Though no definitive studies have quantified it exactly, it is also believed that this large raptorsaurian had a respectable level of intelligence when hunting and confronting prey. Lastly, its eyes were forward-facing and gave it binocular vision, with its body sporting a coat of feathers most likely. While Lilith needed more genetic augmentations to be truly effective, we were pleased with our choice of genetic base. 2. Troodon. However intelligent the Achillobator was, higher than normal smarts was and still is a priority for making Lilith a truly adept killer and combatant. So our team made a particular effort to find anything in prehistory, preferably the Mesozoic, in our genetic storage that would suit our needs. Fortunately, we had one with quite a bit of DNA quantities and of high quality to extract from. Enter Deinonychus, formerly known as Troodon. With numerous studies of its skull casing particularly chambered that housed the brain, indicating that it might just have the highest brain capacity of any dinosaur, save for others like the Tyrannosaurus, and as intelligent as some of our modern birds, like the raven. Other things that pointed out their intelligence was their eye-to-body ratio, larger than most, and suggested a pack-hunting behavioral trait. And according to paleo experts, this large brain helped it in numerous functions, including but not limited to hunting strategies, keen senses, social interactions, acute learning, packing behavior, and discernment of its environment and other factors. Better yet, it also had a sickle claw on its toes, making this very congruent for a hybrid already. As well, grasping clawed hands, serrated teeth, a mildly omnivorous diet based on paleo studies of its teeth, long legs, eyes, well suited for nocturnal hunting bouts, and enlarged ears, giving it sharp hearing even in the dark of night, helped to give Lilith and her kin a superb hunting arsenal. Finally, the Troodon will give Lilith nocturnal capabilities thanks to the enlarged eyesight. The second, and only other dromaeosaur DNA in our arsenal, Deinonychus, gives Lilith 2 additional capabilities. Slightly lighter bones for better agility, a stiff tail for adding congruency, better balancing, and less weight, and most of all, a feathery plumage allowing it to withstand colder temperatures, if needed. First, a bit of context. Living in the early Cretaceous period, about 115 and 108 million years ago in North America, this raptor possessed backward curving teeth used to bite into and tear off chunks off its prey, and like its larger relatives, had arms with long fingers for grasping and holding on to said prey. Of course, the arms are definitely congruent with both Achillobator and Troodon, along with the toe claw. But for our first major adaptation, it had long legs built for speed, and its bones were somewhat lightweight, making speed feats easier for it to obtain its quarry. This will help Lilith to shed some weight off for better speed feats while maintaining her overall mass. While the Achillobator certainly had feats that were not slow, we felt having an increase in speed will only help our hybrid in the long run, especially for stealth-based operations. The second trait, as we mentioned, is the stiff tail, used to counterbalance its body as it carried out its hunting activities. Again, my team was sure Achillobator had this adaptation too, but for the sake of congruity, we added the Deinonychus DNA for its tail. Constructed with bony rot that allowed for strength which supported and counterbalanced the weight of the dinosaur, which assisted greatly in stability, and also surprisingly flexibility at its base, this gave it the ability to act as a lever if and when it needed to turn or jump or do anything else it needed to. Such examples included being able to flex in different positions, allowing it to turn quickly or while chasing prey. This is crucial because Lilith will have to perform swift actions when using her legs or chases, ambushing or holding down her prey or opponents along with other things. The final trait is the coat of feathers. Yes, we are going there. Though we were sure Achillobator had these as well, Again, for congruity's sake, we'll be applying this trait from the dino to our hybrid. We gave Lilith feathers for several reasons. One, it helps with thermoregulation, especially in cool climates. Given how dromaeosaurs were related to birds, it's likely they had warm-blooded endothermic capabilities. And if they had feathers, which paleo researchers are certain that they did, including Deinonychus, this one is a probable use they had. The second trait carried over from this inclusion is that they may have doubled for display, either for mating or intimidation if possible. Either way, our genesis will alter the coloration of Lilith's feathers, along with her kin, to give them a coat that will both help them in stealth, hunting missions, and give them a striking pattern. Overall, the benefits of the Deinonychus gives Lilith simply had to be included while maintaining the ever-important congruity element. Next, we have Sinornithosaurus. While we understand this is an unexpected choice, there are two traits this small theropod dinosaur possessed that simply couldn't be ignored, of which our team thought would make for an excellent addition to our hybrid. The first is that Sinornithosaurus had serrated ridges on its teeth, allowing it to have greater cut depthness, which will help Lilith in her biting and eviscerating large chunks of prey, they be beast or somebody else. The second and most potent ability that Sinornithosaurus possessed is perhaps its most terrifying trait, venom. Paleontologists studying its skull have found that it might have had a fossa, or a spot where venom glands are usually found. And several have made hypotheses that this species of dinosaur actually made a quick venomous bite to subdue its prey. Though this is debatable at best, there's also evidence from its grooved teeth that something of the sort was possibly present. Regardless, Lilith will also have this in her genome. From our testing, we found this to be both a potent neurotoxin, meaning it will affect the nerves, making for a deadly dose. This will come in handy for a later contributor, but this will be the last prehistoric dinosaurian DNA to our list.